For the last few decades, gaming consoles followed a simple pattern. A company released new hardware. It lasted about 6 or 7 years, and only then did the industry move on to the next generation. It was predictable, it was stable, and it shaped how developers, gamers, and manufacturers all operated. But suddenly, something different is happening again. Mid-generation upgrades, a trend most people thought ended with the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, are making a comeback. Sony, Microsoft, and other gaming hardware makers are preparing new, more powerful versions of consoles that are already on the market. And the real question is, why now? What changed? Because the truth is, this shift didn't happen overnight. It's the result of a perfect storm inside the gaming industry, one involving technology, consumer expectations, market pressure, and the evolving way Americans actually play games. To understand why mid-gen upgrades are returning, you first have to look at what's happening inside modern video games themselves. Today's titles are far more demanding than the ones released just a few years ago. Games are bigger, built with far more complex physics systems, higher resolution textures, more advanced lighting, smarter AI, and huge open-world environments that stretch hardware to its limit. In the past, developers worked within the boundaries of a console for most of a generation. They could optimize, adjust, and refine. But the scale of today's games is so large that optimization isn't always enough. Many games in 2024 and 2025 are pushing right up against the edge of what the current PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles can handle, and developers are starting to feel boxed in. Then there's another factor, the shift toward higher frame rates. In the last decade, American households upgraded their TVs and monitors faster than ever before. Today, 120 Hz displays, once a niche feature, are becoming standard. Gamers want smoothness, they want responsiveness, they want lower latency, fewer drops, and better performance across the board. But the original consoles released in 2020 weren't designed for this surge in high refresh screens. They can hit 120 frames per second in some games, but not consistently, and often with major sacrifices in resolution or graphical settings. A mid-generation upgrade solves that problem. It gives consoles the extra headroom to push smoother gameplay, handle modern displays, and match the expectations of players who now care more about frame rates than pure visual detail. But this isn't just about graphics and performance. Another massive shift is happening underneath the surface. Chip technology has changed dramatically since 2020. When the current consoles launched, chip shortages were at their peak. Manufacturing was limited, supply chains were unstable, and companies spent years just trying to keep up with demand. Mid-gen upgrades weren't even on the table because hardware makers couldn't build enough units of the existing models. But today, the chip supply chain has normalized. Semiconductor production is higher. Prices have dropped. New fabrication plants are coming online in the United States. Hardware makers finally have the freedom to create upgraded versions without sacrificing supply. And they want to take advantage of that opportunity while the market is hot. Another reason for the mid-gen comeback is competition. The US gaming landscape is more crowded and more unpredictable than ever. It's not just PlayStation versus Xbox anymore. There are handheld gaming PCs, hybrid systems, cloud gaming devices, and portable consoles flooding the market. Gamers have more options than at any point in history. A mid-generation upgrade helps console makers stay relevant in a market where players can easily switch platforms if performance falls behind. Even smartphones and tablets are pushing console-level graphics now. The pressure to stay competitive is real, and console makers don't want their systems to look outdated just 3 or 4 years into a generation. And then there's the influence of PC gaming, a factor that has quietly grown larger every year. PC gamers upgrade their hardware regularly. They expect new features, new capabilities, and higher performance on a yearly basis. That constant evolution pushes console makers to keep up. If PC hardware makes a huge leap, consoles start to feel outdated faster. A mid-generation upgrade lets console makers close that gap without launching an entirely new system. But the biggest shift driving this trend is how games are being developed and played in the US market. Game engines, like Unreal Engine 5, are introducing features that require more powerful hardware to run smoothly. Many developers want to use these features fully, but they're limited by the base consoles. A mid-gen refresh gives studios more power, more tools, and more freedom to build the games they actually want to make. Players are also demanding faster load times, better ray tracing, higher fidelity effects, and more immersive worlds. And with the rise of competitive gaming, esports, and online multiplayer, performance isn't just nice to have, it's essential. But mid-generation upgrades aren't just about technology. They're also about business. The economics of gaming have changed. Console makers make money not just from hardware, but from game sales, digital stores, and subscription services like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. A mid-gen console increases the value of those services. It keeps players engaged. It keeps them in the ecosystem longer. It encourages them to buy more games and spend more time on the platform. Most importantly, it gives companies something new to sell without creating a completely new generation that fragments the market. And that's where the final piece of this puzzle comes in. Today's gaming industry isn't built around clean generational breaks anymore. It's built around ecosystems. Backward compatibility, cross-gen games, cloud saves, and digital libraries mean players expect their games to carry forward. Launching a brand new console every few years disrupts that. But a mid-generation refresh keeps everything compatible while boosting performance. This creates a new kind of console cycle, one that's flexible, hardware upgradable, and designed to evolve with technology instead of resetting every few years. So what does this mean for the future of gaming? It means that mid-gen upgrades may not be a temporary trend. They might become the standard model. It means console generations could stretch longer, but with more hardware refreshes in between. It means players may start upgrading more often, not because they have to, but because the performance difference becomes too big to ignore. It also means developers will finally get the power they need to build the next wave of ambitious games. They won't be stuck optimizing around outdated hardware for most of a decade. Instead, they'll be able to push new effects, new systems, and larger worlds without compromising performance. And it means console makers will stay competitive in a world where gaming moves faster than ever before. A world where technology evolves too quickly for the old 7-year cycle to keep up. In the end, mid-generation upgrades are returning because consoles can no longer afford to stand still. The hardware demands of games, the expectations of players, the pace of PC technology, and the competitive pressure of the US gaming market have all moved too fast. And console makers are responding the only way they can, by refreshing their hardware right in the middle of the generation. Whether gamers love it or hate it, the era of mid-gen upgrades is back. And this time, it might be here to stay.